Andrew, welcome to the SAINTCON hallway.
Thanks, Pope.
How many SAINTCONs have you gone to?
So this is my 10th SAINTCON. Yeah.
First one was Weber?
Yes, it would have been Weber State. It was the one that had the 7-segment displays on the electronic badge.
Oh, all right.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I still have it hanging on the wall in my office.
Legit.
Yeah.
You have a handle.
Yes.
Can you say it properly for me?
Spike.
Spike. I think I already know the answer here, but I'm just going to throw it out. Is this earned, given, self-assigned, or other?
It was given, and I have a philosophy that you can't self-assign a handle, that you need to be given a handle. So the backstory with the handle was that I was just starting a new job at a magazine called Mac User in 1997, and I'd gone through this enormous, rigorous, interview process, and then they finally made me an offer. And at the end of the offer conversation, I was sitting with who would be my manager, and they said, everybody here has a nickname. Why don't you pick a nickname, because they're all going to want to use your nickname. And I said, I don't have a nickname. And they said, well, just choose one. I said, I don't know, Sparky. And they said, great, okay, well, we'll see you on Monday. And then I went away for the weekend and came back on Monday, and my boss came in late, and I was sitting in the cubicle filling out my HR paperwork, and people kept coming up to me and saying, oh, hey, Spike, it's me, Johnny Z. I want to introduce, welcome you to the company. And hey, Spike, it's me, Brenda. And a bunch of people walked up and called me Spike. So finally, when my boss rolled in around 11 o'clock, I went in and they said, how's everything going? I said, great. Why is everyone calling me Spike? And she said, Spike? Isn't that the nickname you gave me? I said, no, I told you Sparky. She says, Spike? Oh, no. Spike is a much better nickname. Just keep Spike.
I actually thought it was your mohawk, so I'm glad you told me. I was like, Spike, yeah, that kind of makes sense.
Yeah.
Land Before Time reference, that. So Sparky was self-assigned, didn't stick,
No.
and now Spike.
Right.
Love it.
Yeah.
So what is the catalyst that got you into information security, right? You're living your life, and some of us are born hackers, and maybe information security is too broad of a term. Hacker-esque mind, what was that where this is the thing I want to do?
Right. So it probably started when I was in middle school. That was when I was introduced to computers for the first time. I had, access to actual computers. This would have been in the early 1980s. And the computers that they had at my school were TRS-80 Model 1s and Model 3s. And so what was hacking back then was breaking copy protection on games and using sector editors to go into games and change the copyright credits so that you put your own name in, or the name of your little hacker crew in the copyright credits of your pirated game, and then you would give it to all your friends and they would see your name, and that was how you got a little bit of street cred. But I did not do sciences. I did not do IT in school or in college. I graduated with an English degree from UC Berkeley. But my whole life, I've just been messing around with stuff and hacking on, first the TRS-80s, then Commodore 64s. We had TI 99.4As at another school. When I graduated high school, I got a Mac Plus. First thing I put on the Mac Plus was the programmer switch. And then I've just been hacking Macs and PCs ever since then. And with an English degree, I have decent writing skills. And it's very, very difficult to find people who have decent writing skills who are very technically proficient. All of my technical stuff is self-taught. But the writing I've been trained in very, very thoroughly by various, employers, by college. And it's turned out to be a real benefit to be a writer in the technical field. But I love doing the hacking. That's the main thing, is that it's my favorite thing to do, is just mess around with something to see how it works.
Commodore 64?
Yeah, so the first computers that we had were TRS-80s, then eventually moved up to Commodore 64, got a Mac Plus when I graduated from high school, got another Mac when I was in college, and then just continued using Macs and PCs sort of throughout the rest of my life. But I loved taking them apart, figuring out how they worked, doing maintenance on them, repairing them myself. Learning how to build PCs was a big thing in the sort of like late 90s, early 2000s. So, yeah.
When did you decide, hey, maybe I could take this thing that's fun and doing computers and a bit of hacking? When did you, I could turn this into like a career and I could make like money doing this?
It's a great question. So I was working at PC World. I worked there as an editor from 1997 to 2005. And when I started, I was in the reviews team and just did reviews of products like PCs and modems and printers. And that was a little boring. Everybody who starts there usually started in the reviews team. But eventually I got to move up to features. And in my college years, I worked as a daily news crime reporter for 2 college newspapers. And when I was at PC World, I realized that I could still be a crime reporter because I could cover cybercrime and hacking and computer security as a topic. So that ended up being my beat. So my first DEF CON that I went to was in 1999.
Wow.
And
what number was that?
I think it was 7.
Wow.
And it was great. I had a total blast, and that just became my primary focus was computer security journalism for the following 6 years or so. And as I was doing that, and as I was going to conferences, I was going to RSA and DEF CON, and eventually when it started up, Black Hat and DEF CON, and then B-Sides, I started to, I would be sitting in these presentations and watching people do these talks about research that they had done. And it was great and all, but I started to realize some people are not particularly good presenters. And I could probably do a better job than that person that's on the stage. And I mean, it's no offense to them. They did amazing work. They're just not, maybe they're just not great at doing this sort of stage presentation part of their research. But I loved the idea of doing that. So I had been doing research anyway as an investigative journalist. The very last feature that I worked on for PC World was called Spyware Following the Money Trail. And it involved infecting laptops with what in those days were like the biggest problem that everybody had, these browser toolbars that would pop ads up all over your window, and you had no idea where they were coming from. So we installed a bunch of these toolbars things on on computers in our lab, and I used what was an early version of like Wireshark to monitor network traffic, and everything was over HTTP, so it was very easy to sort of reproduce the chain of the network connections from when things were loading. And we did an investigative story, and we found that big vendors like Dell and Best Buy and other big retailers, and their ads were showing up in these browser toolbars, and they had no idea that they were getting there. And it uncovered this entire ecosystem of affiliates and sub-affiliates and sub-affiliates and this shady underbelly of the advertising industry. I wrote that up as a big feature with one other writer, and it won all sorts of awards. It changed industry practices in the online ad industry, and all the online retailers now, because they realized that they were basically being taken for a ride on their ad dollars, they now insisted on proof and validation that their ad dollars were going to where they said it was going to go to, and not into some shady back door of a browser toolbar. And I thought, wow, this is like life, world-changing stuff that I can do, and I am capable of doing this. So I left PC World and got hired at an InfoSec company doing malware research and network forensics.
Love it.
So it's a really weird. It's one of the weirdest job career switches I've ever heard of, right? Is that I was a writer, and all of a sudden I was fighting cybercrime. But I love it. It makes my day to give bad guys a bad day. So it's the best job ever. And I worked in that first job for a few years. They were headquartered in Colorado, and I was living in California at the time. And I asked them to relocate me to Colorado because my commute was terrible. And so we ended up moving to Boulder, and I worked, for this company for a couple more years. Then, things started to change there, and I went to Black Hat with a stack of resumes. And the second guy that I talked to in the show floor was Joe Levy, who's currently the CTO of Sophos, but he was then the CTO of a tiny startup here in South Jordan. And we started talking, and 2.5 hours later, he was telling me that I was coming for an interview the following week. So I was flying back to Salt Lake City. And, this was the first year. This would have been 2012. And it was the first year that I took part in MohawkCon at DEF CON. So right after I had met this guy, I got my head shaved and donated the money to the EFF at DEF CON. And then the following week, I was flying back to Utah to do this job interview. And I was paranoid because I knew, Utah's a little more of a conservative place, and I didn't know how well I'd be received as the guy with the mohawk. So I put on a baseball cap and wore it sort of turned around backwards for the whole half a day or 3/4 of a day of interviews with the head of engineering and the CEO and the head of HR and a bunch of other people who work there. And at the end of the day, Joe pulled me in and he said, "How did the interviews go?" And I said, "I thought everybody was really nice and it seems like a great place to work." And he said, so what's going on with the hat?" And I had to take the hat off and said, "Look, I'm so sorry. I didn't know how well this would be taken in this crowd." And he laughed and he's like, "Yeah, no, this is perfect. We'll see, you're starting next week." And I've never changed since then. So for 11 years now, I've been doing the Mohawk thing to show my support for the EFF and donate money to them at DEF CON. And this year, when I came back from DEF CON and Black Hat, I started my school board campaign, and I had the Mohawk. And my campaign manager said, "You need to keep that. That's going to be part of your branding." So we ended up doing this cartoon of me with the Mohawk. And it became, it's become my iconic yard sign. And
I thought where Spike came from, but apparently not.
No, the Spike was way before that.
Some foreshadowing.
Yeah, a little bit. I mean, it's also, when you think of Spike, you think of the bulldog with the studded chain around its neck, and it's real tough and rough, and that is not me at all.
I thought it was one from Land Before Time, but I'm also a dinosaur person. The one who never talks and sits over there, Spike. But. So school board, you trying to do another career change? So you're like, hey, listen, I'm going to write about these things. Now I'm going to do those things full on reverse engineering, the malware, and now you're like, I'm going to go run for the school board?
Yeah. So I've got 2 kids. They're in school, and they're in high school now. And I've been looking around at what's going on around the country with book bans and weird sort of culture war stuff that's been going on. And I don't want my family or my kids' friends or the kids that come after them to have to sort of suffer through all of that. This year in particular, there's 7 members of our local school board, and 4 of them were up. Either they had termed out of term limits, or they had the 4th person was not running for re-election. So 4 out of 7 is a takeover number for a school board, and it was really concerning to me. So, I care a lot about public education. I was a public school kid myself. I went to a public university. All of these things, I recognize that it's the great equalizer in our society, and it helps us raise generations of people who can achieve more than their parents, can grow and build this country to be a better place. And with great public schools comes, fantastic society and advancements and all of the benefits that come from those things. So as a, person who cares about my community and cares about my kids and cares about the fact that kids have opportunities and wants to raise everybody up, it seemed like a natural fit. So I decided to throw my hat in for this race for school board. And but of course, it's not just a race for school board, because the idea here is that I would run for office, learn how that process works, go through the entire thing, hopefully win my seat. I mean, fingers crossed, people have their ballots right now, and I won't know for a couple of weeks whether or not I won. But then go, take what I've learned and go back to DEF CON next year with a talk called Elect More Hackers, which is also the campaign slogan of my campaign, because I want to bring more people who are the kind of people who come to SAINTCON. They're incredibly generous with their time, generous with their resources, kind. They're excited about technology. They're pioneering new technology, things that will advance our country and will advance society and will advance the world, are happening in places like this. And it is an incredibly exciting place to be, and I was inspired by the education hacking sort of blend that happens here at DEF CON to do this run. But then moreover, like, the big issue is, can we bring this spirit of creativity and inventiveness and inclusivity to other parts of the country and into the schools? Yeah. And so here, there's the whole badge life aspect of things. There's the vault where people learn how to break into rooms and safes and locks, and all of these things are part of this sort of education process that we can bring kids in, get them excited about a career in this field, and maybe like do a better job at protecting all of our things that are electronic that need protecting. Because right now, the biggest issue that I see is that there are not enough of us to fill all the conceivable jobs that are out there, and we need workforce. We need people who are excited about this as a career and who want to get in. And security is such a broad term, because you can be a red teamer, you can be a blue teamer, you can just be doing code review, you can be working on policy, you can be doing things that involve planning for the future.
Hardware.
I mean, there's hardware security, there's physical security, there's so many aspects to it. So it's not just a narrow focus. You're not working an assembly line in a car plant, right? And so, or you're not doing hairstyling. You can do a vast number of jobs and find something in this industry that you're really passionate about and interested in, and do good for society and do good for your community and your employer and everybody else around you. Because what I've noticed is that I've been covering security as a beat. If you call me an investigative malware analyst journalist, I've been doing this since 1997, since I worked at PC World. And in 1997, 1998, 1999, we were telling people, oh yeah, don't click those links that people send you an email. Don't open that attachment. It's going to do something bad. And what are we doing in 2022, 2023, 2024? Don't click those links in your spam, don't, watch out for that spam that has the Word document in it. Don't click the link on your phone now. Watch out for things getting airdropped onto your devices, things like that. But it's all the same stuff. And it drives me crazy that I've been doing this for 25 years, and we are still fighting these same battles. And the conclusion that I've come to is that if we cannot, at the youngest age of kids, in kindergarten, we're handing them Chromebooks in first grade in our school district, but we are not teaching them the rules of looking both ways before crossing the street on the internet. And we have to start teaching security concepts and privacy ideas at first grade level, at second grade level, not waiting till high school when we're doing, competitions for, with partners from outside the school district. We need to be teaching them this from the minute we hand them their devices, so they grow up inherently just grokking and understanding security. And that is what will bring us out of this morass of having to tell people over and over again the same advice. Stop clicking that link. Don't open that attachment. Be careful what that person who's on the phone is asking you to do, who you don't know. I'm hoping that with an improved public education system that takes cybersecurity on as a curriculum, that isn't just a class, but is a part of every class, that we will finally maybe be able to get out of this problem.
Well said. If somebody wanted to come up and chat with you, but they're maybe intimidated by your mohawk or by your elite background for decades, what's something that you enjoy and maybe they can have common ground chatting with you about? Yeah,
so in addition to doing the security work and the writing work and journalism, I have two hobbies that I love. Number one is I play with retro computers. So I'm a volunteer docent at the Media Archaeology Lab in Boulder, Colorado. And I do a lot of the stuff that people are doing here with hardware hacking, I do on old, literally just soldered together some broken solder joints on an old TRS-80 Model 1 to make the spacebar work again. And so I maintain the machines, and I teach younger college-age kids about computers that have no internet connection or no GUI or no mouse. They love to come in and use typewriters. I'm totally down with talking about retro computing stuff. But then also, if you're want to talk about something that's completely non-technology, for years I taught pottery in an arts studio in Northern California, and I continue to volunteer with a group called Studio Arts Pottery Lab that's in Boulder. And I teach young kids how to throw pots on the wheel, how to hand build. Working with clay is one of our most primal experiences as humans. It's something that we've done for thousands of years. And I love the tactile feeling of taking mud from the earth and forming it into things that you can turn. You can either make it useful, you can make them whimsical. I tend to a little bit of both. But I just love, making pots and teaching kids how to throw on the wheel, because they see a hump of clay turn into a vase or a bowl or a cup, and then they can use that to eat or drink out of. It's a real life-changing experience for some of them, and it brings them into the world of art in a very literal hands-on way.
Yeah,
and
full circle.
Love talking about pottery and doing art stuff.
From an idea to drinking out of it. I love it.
Yes.
Well, I appreciate all you do for the community. We're grateful to have you here at SAINTCON, and vote for hackers.
Yes. And if you're interested, my website is Brandt for BVSD, BRANDT-FOR-BVSD.co. If you want to learn more about my campaign, and I don't know if you might want to donate money to my campaign.
Thank you. Thank you for joining us in SAINTCON hallway, and enjoy the rest of con.
All right. Thank you so
Thanks.
much, Pope.